Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's your favorite paranormal investigator here with you. My name is Tim Sudano. This is Paranormal Insight. My picture just went away. There it is. It came back. Okay. So, once again, Paranormal Insight, Tim Sudano. Today, I should say, I have one of the foremost authorities in the Bigfoot realm with us. He's written a couple books. He's the guy who recorded or helped record the Sierra Sounds. Without further ado, Mr. Ron Morehead. Ron, welcome.
Hi, Tim. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. So let's start back in time real quick. I'm going to play a video for us to look at real quick. You probably know this. It's kind of what got everyone's imagination going. This is the Patterson-Gimlin film from '67.
Yeah,
this is the original film. It's been digitized, obviously, but there it is. And we're going to see Patty herself walking across the field in a little bit. In fact, let me get to that right away. In fact, okay, that's the cameraman getting off the horse. That's why it's so rocky. And there she is. And man, does this just spark everyone's imagination when they first saw it. Do you remember seeing this when it was first reported?
Well, we've seen it a little while later when it got popularized.
Yeah. What were your thoughts initially?
Well, we knew we ran across something significant up there, and we wanted to see everything we could. I wanted to learn everything I could about it, what's going on, because all they left us, they didn't leave us any clips like that. They left us some recordings of some pictures of some pretty huge footprints.
Right. I'm going to play a different version of that film. This is the stabilized version. Color correction's been added to it. It'll play here in a sec. There it is. And so they're going to walk it back here. This is her walking backwards.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, I mean, look at that stride alone, and then they're going to slow it down.
Did MK do that, or who did that?
I did not do that. This was someone else, but they definitely did a good job, I think.
Yeah,
not only cleaning up the film, but stabilizing it and making it a little more recognizable. Mm-hmm. So that's Patty. That's 1967. We get footprints, we get knuckle prints, and that's truly, and eyewitness reports, maybe a couple of photos from then up until your experience. Now, what year was your experience?
Well, it was several years, 71 through 76. Well, actually through now.
Okay. You still go up to the same place? And
18, the last time I was up there, 2018.
Okay. And you go up to that same location?
Yeah, a lot of it's burnt up now since California had its wildfires in 2018.
Wow.
When we were there, actually, it was real smoky. And anyway, the campsite's still there, but it's not like it used to be, even though the area's still there.
I understand. At least the area is still there. So when you were up there and you took your recorder with you, what kind of recorder was it? Because I never got a concise answer. I didn't know if it was an old cassette recorder or a battery-powered reel-to-reel.
No battery-powered reel-to-reel. I didn't know they made one then. We took little cassettes. And I had actually a dual cassette. Yeah. But when I first went up there, I had a dual cassette recorder, RCA, and with stereo mics. And that's what I record a lot of my sounds with.
Cool. Okay.
But I've also
so you go now. Oh no. Well, oh no. That's hard. That's disheartening. That is really disheartening. So I guess the first question I have, and I kind of know the answer to this because I've been hiking. I'm 52 years old. I was hiking up in the 70s and camping out and stuff like that too. When I was little. But the question I hear often, it's kind of a funny question, but I'm going to let you answer. Why bring a recorder in the first place?
Well, we didn't. We went out. Johnson Brothers did, and we took recorders back with us to see if they'd come back again. So there was more than one.
I see.
From 71
okay.
To 76.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. My
That's
first involvement was
I didn't know that.
1971. Yeah. And we didn't take reel to reel. You know, that was too bulky and too big because it's a long way back there.
Yeah.
80 miles, about 8,400 feet. Very imposing trail. So really, you want to go as light as you could, as long as the mules can handle it.
That makes sense. You had mules with you or horses?
Both. Road horses or Ringo mules.
Okay. Okay.
That was to carry the deer out and to carry supplies in.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So you heard these things initially, you go back to see if you can capture it and you luck out. And man, you know what? I have them here, unless you want to play them.
No,
I believe
they're not handy for me, but go ahead. You want to play something? Tell me what it's about or what it says, and I'll give a little preview if you want me to.
Okay. Let me pause for just a moment.
Question was?
I'm just letting everyone know. Yeah, we had the pause, and now we're back on. Yeah. So I was going to play the Sierra sounds, but I wanted you, Ron, to maybe talk about it first.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this happened to me in 1971. Started with me. I was 29 at the time, but it's not like we just went in, recorded them, and went out. When you go up there, you have to stay a while because it's such a long distance and imposing. And once you get there, you set up camp and stay there and for 3 or 4 days or 2 or 3 days or whatever you can do. Just gotta let the animals rest up a little bit. And if we did walk in, you want to rest up because your legs are so out of shape. It's 8,400 feet elevation. You got to climb up to over 10,000 feet just to get there. And like I say, it's 8 miles in the wilderness, so very imposing place to get to. So when we went in with the supplies to last us for a while. Then we actually hauled some barrels in to pack our supplies in. So when we did walk in, we didn't have to carry so much. We leave our sleeping bags there and ring barrels to keep them bear proof and food too, you know. So that's how we could walk in and not have to worry about packing so much because it really works salt out of you when you pack so much on your back. So anyway, that's how we did it. And if they came in, which a lot of times they did in 71, 72, and all the way through till 74, 76 is the last time we recorded them. And I say recorded, I'm not sure we even recorded that night because one was screaming up behind us, and then a bear was tearing up our supply barrels out there. So we had to check that out and work on that. That was anyway, we ended up having to shoot a bear, which didn't want to do, but it was taking all our food. We didn't want that either. Anyway, that's kind of the idea of what it's like up there. And we hauled a stove in too, and then put it together on mules. So it was a good place to go if you want to just relax and hang out. Now all the other guys were up there to hunt. I hadn't been a hunter prior to 71, but the Johnson brothers, who have been going up there since 1958, they were there to hunt, and they weren't. Nobody's looking for Bigfoot until they all went up, and except for me, and experienced the same thing again after Johnson brothers had experienced it once before, a few weeks earlier. They all got together and went up there to see what was going on because most of the guys thought it had to be a bear. But Johnson brothers are really avid hunters. I mean, they know they could shoot the tail off a hummingbird and want to 100 yards, I think, with a pistol. Pretty good hunters. Anyway, they know animal sounds, they know the track, and they know things. When they went out, when just the two of them up there, and they saw this big track in the mud after this noise had stopped, they realized it's not a bear for sure, and the sounds didn't represent a bear at all. And they came out and told the other guys. So they all went up, okay, except for me. I was friends with them, but didn't hunt at the time. And one of the guys got scared off after the first night. He heard them, and he just, very religious guy, very, well, we all were in a way, active in churches and things, and very sober camp. And he came out and said that there is something to what the Johnson said. There's some kind of monster up there. So the wives were worried because the guys hadn't came out when they were supposed to. So they said, you got to go back and see if they're okay. And he said, I'm not going to go back by myself. So he asked me if I'd go with him, and I did. And that was my opening into the camp. And then when I got up there, I was looking around for things, And I became a hunter that winter when the snow drove us out. But I started going back as much as I could. And the guys were okay, and we all got out. But that was my first trip with seeing a track and hearing something that they recorded. Because when they went back, we took a recorder with them. And so we all started doing that when we went up there. We'd take little cassette recorders, and we would, if they came around, which wasn't all the time, but most of the time, 71, 72, they'd come in and start chattering. That's the same chatter that was described in John Green's book of with Albert Osman, I think it was, where he got kidnapped. And he said they were chattering amongst themselves. He was held for 6 days. So anyway, this went on year after year, and we were trying to capture a picture, because that's what everybody wants, is a picture. Couldn't capture that. All we could capture was their sounds, and that was very, 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 very elusive, very, very fast, because I finally saw one in 1974 when we were recording, and it was just phenomenal how fast I could move. And at the same time, I recorded what I think you fixed to play on the sound there. When I was interacting with them when we were outside,
Sure.
Normally they wouldn't come around and interact with you until you were inside the shelter. It was just me and Bill McDowell up there this night. And they started beating on logs and cracking rocks and whooping and sounds like that. But we learned over the years to just leave them alone. Don't mess with them. Act like they're not even there. So I kept cooking, and on the stove we had for something to eat. You get late in the evening, and that's when they started coming in closer and chattering. And Bill got a glimpse of a couple of them too down by the creek. And the one I took a glimpse of was the what they call the samurai chatter. He was coming up from behind me, shooting right through the trees down to the other ones. I can't describe him real good because it was getting dark, and there was a moon coming out that night. But what I saw was just bipedal imaging, streaking really fast down through the forest there to the other two.
Similar, was that creature similar, at least in shadow, to what we saw with Patty walking across the bluff there?
Well, it was going a lot faster. Patty was walking. This was like it was running down there.
Right. Patty was walking, and this thing was hauling, apparently. But
yeah, and it was a male.
Mean, as far as physical description.
Well, it was tall. I don't know. You can't tell. They're going so fast. It was tall. Obviously, they get tall when they get older. And this was a male, I'm pretty sure, because it's the one that did the samurai cry that had been coined years ago. Sounded very Asian-like. So anyway, he got down to the other ones, and they started commotioning some more. I think they were concerned about getting too close, or maybe the little one, because there is a little voice that I recorded. And we had some little prints up there in the snow. So there was a little one up there, and he was maybe getting too close. I don't know. But there's no danger because we wasn't even wanting to shoot at one. There wasn't even part of our parameters there. We just want to learn more about them and what we're dealing with. Because at first, when we started dealing with them all this time, we thought they were just some kind of ape that hadn't been identified, like so many researchers do now. But they're a lot more than that. A lot more than that. They're like a people, and I think I've discovered over the years that they have to have a human component to them. And that's not because of DNA, it's because of the studies we've had done on the sounds, which Dr. Curlin did in 1978, I think it was somewhere around there. He wrote a paper on it, actually, and presented it to the Anthropology Unknown in British Columbia. And that was pretty unique because it showed it was above the human range, inside the human range, and below the human range. And it represented, the little clip that he studied for this represented an animal compared to the human vocal mechanism. It represented an animal that was over 8 foot tall. So that's that was good, but it wasn't until the cryptolinguist got a hold of it in 2008. Scott Nelson, who had been trained by the military, two-time graduate of the Military Foreign Language Institute in Monterey. And I had him vetted because a lot of people tell me they think they know what they're saying, but how do you know what they know? He had qualifications to transcribe languages. Yeah, military, retired from the military. Then he was teaching school in Missouri at the time, but he heard these by accident. Came out and interviewed us, me and Al Berry actually, and asked if he could study them, and he did. And he said, there's a language here. We knew that, but we thought that. But the significance of language is very, 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 very important. If only humans, according to Dr. Lieberman, Brown University, who's a cognitive research scientist, says only humans have the vocal mechanism for speech like we're making now. You put those three things together, and there has to be a human component to these things. Then I got studying very back into the religious part of it, or the ancient texts, and started looking into the where a lot of religions come from, and a lot of it's from the cuneiform text, which is written by the Sumerians in Mesopotamia, because I found out that there's a lot of discrepancies in what's been transferred. Because whoever starts to transfer, whoever does that, or St. Constantine, or it's King James, 16 or 36 scholars in 1611. Everybody changes what they want to create the power and the control. And when you get into the cuneiform text, that's where a lot of it, that's where the core of it all is. And so there's where I went with my studies and still am. So just interrupt me anytime, Tim. Gotcha. I just chatter away for an hour or two.
Well, let me interrupt you here then. Let me interrupt you here then. Let's play those sounds. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a crude playback because the system didn't accept the files I had prepared. So this will be a loud playback, and do forgive the crudity of them. Here we go.
Please try and talk to this.
It's me. It's not me.
Now, I think we changed to a different recording just now. But that first section, I clearly hear language. Clearly. It's and given the area, I know you've described about where this is, and I have a slide related to that. First, let me show this. If it will come up. Nope, that's a cassette recorder. There we go. That's a cassette recorder. There we go. Now, this isn't the best graphic in the world, but this highlights the different Native American languages. And in my research for this particular interview, I think this is roughly where you were. Roughly, my stuff might be off, and I don't know if you can read these. Okay, so this is roughly where you're at, and if you look at the languages, and these are still languages spoken today in the reservations in those areas. We have Paiute chiefly, Miwok, and if you listen to those two languages or examples of those languages, and this is in my own personal research, and your cryptolinguist probably knows way more than I do. In fact, I'm sure he does. That it has elements of these two languages and even some Algonquin accents to it. So my guess is, and this is only a guess, that when they heard you, and I'm glad the recording had your voices on there mimicking what you heard. When they heard a human, it sounds to me like they were trying to speak to you guys to one degree or another. And there's a female, a higher pitched voice, maybe female, and definitely a lower pitched voice, which I would interpret as male, assuming any human similarities there. And it seems to me like they were trying to pinpoint what tribe they were talking to. That's my interpretation. I'm not sure if that's the case or not.
Well, we're sure they have language. The ones we dealt with have language. Now, the ones that are all over the world, which they are, I've been into Russia, Siberia, I've been all over the planet. They're not all the same. I don't think, because I think I got a good explanation for that. But what they were doing there is definitely trying to ask me something, and I didn't realize what anything meant, so I just kind of mimicked them back, and that's where that night went. You know, I don't know that they were trying to identify us as another tribe, because this was 1774 when that particular track was recorded, and we'd already been dealing with them for three years, since 71. So they knew who we were, and they, of course, that's not. There could be some other reasons for the similarity in the sounds, is because of the potential crossbreeding or inbreeding when Native Americans. They described that some of their women were taken years ago, and there could be a lot of what I call a dilution factor, where they're more human-like. Some of them were more human-like than others, and I kind of believe that that's what's happened from all the reports I've read. Even talked to Native Americans also, that they did crossbreed and take their women, or vice versa, take their women and crossbreed. So that would leave the tracks a little bit different. Well, and it would make things different.
Really? The tracks differ?
They're different than the Patterson tracks, yeah.
Crazy. I didn't know that.
Well, they're bigger, they're more splayed. There's not an arch like the Patterson track has, a definite human-like arch. The toes are slanted down, and ours were not. They were just flat, kind of flat. Of course, to get tracks up there, no stories decompose or grind it a lot of times, unless it's in the mud or something. But they're very little arch to them. They're bigger, you know. They seem to be a lot bigger. I got a Patterson. I should have those out here so I can show them to you. But our tracks were.
If you have not.
Oh, I don't have them here. They're in storage. Something.
Oh, you don't have. That's okay. No problem. Well, you kind of lean into something that I don't know if you're aware or know or am familiar with Todd Standing.
Oh yeah, I know Todd.
And his stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me show you. Let me bring this up here real quick. I can't find it. I'll find the button. So that's one of his pictures. And then there's another, that's a close-up of, you'll see, and that's another one of his pictures. And the differentiation, this is basically in the same area as I understand it. I mean, this guy looks more like a macaque, or has that feature where the face is exposed compared to our guy here. And then there's, this thing, I swear, it won't cooperate. Hey, there's your book. Okay. This one in the middle here is I would assume albino version of the guy on the left. So it's the differentiation between these types that really kind of stand out to me. And I don't know, what's your thought on this? Are these guys the same creatures? Are they cousins of the same?
I have no idea. I think the two, the one on our left and the one in the middle, look like the same one to me. And you say albino, it could just be a mutation or something like that, which may be by the one on the right. I don't know about any of these because I have not been to his site before. You know, he's invited me.
Oh, okay.
I don't like to draw opinions on other people's work because it just you don't know, and none of us know. You know, I mean,
No, it's true.
I've heard people talk about him and all that, but I don't want to talk about him.
I was going to ask
credibility.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. We'll go back to this. So when you speak about other species, are you talking about the global Sasquatch community, so to speak? When you speak about other species of Sasquatch,
well, we have a tendency to put them all. Yeah. We have a tendency to put them all in one box, you know. And from what I can tell about other places, they're not all the same. And I think I get way back into the Anunnaki, into the DNA manipulation that different species have done on this planet to give us what we have now, which is differences in these things. And I'm not sure they all have the same agenda. You know, what we had up there were friendly, evidently, because they didn't eat us or carry us away or threaten us with salt and pepper. You know, we just didn't know. We still don't know, but what I can tell about these other countries that have them, I've been into Russia, Siberia, and those places, and they don't have the same attributes, it seems like. But they all have one thing in common, which is stay away from us humans. If you see a camera or a recorder now, you may as well go away because they're not going to come around. I stopped recording.
Now I want.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, to your knowledge / research, do you know what the visual spectrum of a Sasquatch is? Can they see infrared?
I think they can, because we had infrared flash bulbs up there on a flash camera, and had it go off and never captured anything. You know, you could hear them out there, you could see them, and which I got another theory on that one too. But how long do we have on this program? I
2 hours.
I think
now an hour and a half.
I try to stay within science on my ideas on what these things are, but I have been studying it longer than most anybody else, and I've looked into what science might answer the enigmas associated with it, which a lot of people call the paranormal, but how they disappear if they can, how the different things happen that they. I mean, one time we thought our camp was being torn apart, the world was being ripped off, and all that stuff. Look out there later, and nothing's changed. Well, did they hypnotize all of us, or can they actually mimic those type sounds, or did they put us in another universe? I don't know. You know, those are kind of some of the mysteries. Sometimes you hear. Keep in mind, there's really no trails going back there to where we go. And one time I heard a car door slam outside there. Well, that's ridiculous. Time you think of a herd of horses running down towards the camp, and that's not happening. One time I thought of kind of a tuning fork, a huge tuning fork right above us. We couldn't find the source of that. So there's mysteries that went on. Lights that happened. I did see a UFO up there once, yeah. And so Al Berry, who had a master's degree in science, he's the one we took in 1972, who recorded a lot of sounds too. He was looking for a hoax. He couldn't find one, but he maintained there has to be one. Nothing can do this, you know, but not leave signs. And the only thing they left us was their voices and huge tracks, prints. Because you can never find a source of how anything happened up there. So this got me out of classical science because it didn't make sense in classical science. It put me into quantum science, which fits all the things. Quantum science is a science that's it's recognized all over the world, and it works from the atom all the way through the cosmos. So many think it just works in the micro world. Well, that's not true. It works everywhere. However, you don't see it because it's out of our dimension. We only see within frequencies, and we have we're made out of frequency, energy, and vibration. Everything is made out of that. And according to Einstein, if you can find the frequency of anything, you can change its matter. So if these things have the capability of finding the frequency that takes their matter out of our perception, then they could turn into energy only. And that's when the trackways would stop and they wouldn't have a density to them after that. So trackways do stop. I've heard those reports for years, and had it happen to me too. And my daughter, she had a sighting. We found the trackway. So how does that happen? How does through energy and matter transference? They do transfer. That's a fact. They discovered that physically in CERN in 2012. So for these people that say they saw one disappear, I don't discount them at all. But it's not paranormal, it's science. I mean, there's a science behind the paranormal, let's put it that way. And it's quantum science.
Well, I mean,
about this book.
There's that old adage.
I'm going to show you the track.
Please do.
There's a track we got in the snow, one of the tracks.
Get it right up to the camera. Get right up to the camera if you can. Oh, wow. Look at the spread on that. That's amazing.
That's on this quantum book. Yeah. That's what I mean by different. And that was, I think, 19-inch track, 18 or 19-inch.
Wow.
Well, I got some pictures up there. Anyway, I got back into the Nephilim and all that in the biblical days, but I had to get further than that because some things just weren't making sense. And even with the biblical text that we have, until I got to the cuneiform text, which is a Mesopotamian Sumerian translation of thousands and thousands of tablets, which was considered the first written language known to man. So those have been interpreted in the 1800s. Some guys started interpreting those. There's thousands of them, and that's the historical events of before time. I should say before time. Of course, time is another story. Time, as we know it, is linear, and it doesn't exist. Everything's in the now. And we live in the third dimension, three-dimension environment, density. And there's at least 11 that they've proven to exist. And if you can get your head out of the conditioned box that we got on our shoulders, which has all been conditioned to believe certain things and don't believe other things. But you got to step out of that to grab a hold of quantum physics and understand what these scientists are saying. Most people just only believe in what they can see, feel, and touch. And that's Newtonian physics from 1687. And we taught that in high school or grammar school, kindergarten probably. So, but I got to tell you, this is all fun stuff. It's interesting. We're living in a very special time right now, where humans are very important. These things, I think, it's kind of like the Star Trek "Don't interfere," but they did interfere with us, and they still do sometimes. Excuse me, you're scratching yourself there.
Yeah. No, I get it. I want to show you something. If it plays, where this guy with a trail, here it is, and it's small. I'm sorry, and you're gonna have to look at the background initially, but you're gonna see a creature come right up to the thing. And now, I'm a filmmaker. I know how to make special effects, and this could be that, but it's played in fast, very quickly. You'll see the pace of this thing moving around. And then there's that creature invisibly moving in front of the camera there. So I don't know. That was
I've seen that one before.
You saw that for yourself? Okay.
Well, not for myself. I've seen the picture. Well, I think it's real, but then what do I know? They do cloak. I've talked to too many people that have seen them disappear or pixelated. And just there's too many credible people talking about that. And the way that happens is through quantum science, which is changing your matter into energy. And we can supposedly do that if we can learn how. We just haven't connected all our dots together within our own self. We're very special people, humanoids. So been given dominion on this planet.
There was. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, interrupt me. Go ahead. I'll just.
I was gonna say there are documented. Videotape monks in the Himalayas. They focus a little bit, and they can do it almost on a command. The older ones, and they can levitate easily, 3-4 inches off the ground.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and and they could just do it just by focusing, and whoop, off they go. There was a guy in Japan who basically had a martial arts of some sort, but he developed a way to push things, kind of like in Star Wars where the Jedis push things.
Telekinesis.
Yeah, telekinesis. Good stuff. So if we can achieve that, what makes us think other primate type individual species couldn't?
Well, they're connected. We haven't connected ourselves totally with the right consciousness. You have to open up your pineal gland, which is your receptor inside your head. It directs it to the heart. Your heart has a brain. Most people don't understand that, but it does. It talks to the brain up here on your shoulders.
It does.
And when it does, it's getting coherence with your brain. You have to step out of the box and listen to your heart. But I think everything comes from your heart. Everything that's right for you. The rest of the stuff, when you make stupid mistakes, you're analyzing stuff too much, not listening to your heart's brain, and your upper brain on your shoulders, it takes off and has to consider all the things that's been taught. And that's what makes up a lot of people's future, is the way they're thinking from the past. Because the past only exists in your memory, and your brain only knows what's been taught, unless you are able to connect with everything and listen to your heart, and it'll tell you a lot of things. Everything's right anyway.
I believe that. I mean, they actually.
What I was going to say is this.
Proved that scientifically recently.
Yeah. This recent book. Well, I was going to say this recent book has got a chapter on levitation. It talks about the monks a little bit, and
fantastic!
It's all sound vibration. Yeah.
Let me add that.
That's it. Yeah.
Let me add that to the thing. There it is. I got both your books here. But yeah, this one, this is your second book. Your first book was Quantum Bigfoot, and
actually, this is my third book.
Bigfoot was. Oh, I'm sorry.
Here's my
Bigfoot's your third book.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me get this thing off the screen so we can see it.
Voices of the Wilderness, and there's a documentary being made on that now.
Oh, okay. Voices of the Wilderness, fantastic. So look that up, folks.
Yeah.
That's gonna be.
This is my my chronicle of doing this. It comes with a download that you can download the sounds that I'm talking about when I talk about the sounds.
Fantastic!
My first book. Yeah, and there's 26 sound bites, I think, on there that you can download. It's got the download link on a certain page, and you download that, and you can hear the sound I'm talking. Or it's all this download on my website, ronmorehead.com. It's all downloadable with CDs. I got 2 CDs and 3 books.
I'm putting that together right now, ronmorehead.com, so I can go across a ticker. And if I could spell it, that'd be even better. Add banner.
10 and Morehead.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Fantastic. So go there, ladies and gentlemen. Ignore the your host part. And you can see and listen and read along with. And then can you hold up the book one more time? Because I don't have that graphic.
Which one? Oh, Voices?
The one you showed me with the sound bites. There it is. Let's go with the Voices in the Wilderness. And the
film that's being made on me. Yeah, the film that's being made on me should be released sometime early this year.
Fantastic! Was this documentary style or?
Yeah, and it's it's going to be called Voices in the Wilderness, and it's the people that are doing it is called the Renaissance production company, and they're really good. They've been interviewing me for years, and yeah. So anyway, they'll do a good job, and I'm sure. Well, I'm kind of anxious to see it myself because they've been working on it so long. Anyway,
documentaries sometimes take a long time, but so if we can go back a moment to, let me see if I can find the thing here. Nope. Oh, the machine's getting funky. All right. All right, I'll just do that. So this is your general area campground, the Native American languages that intersect that area. Did your cryptozoologist, sorry, wrong term, cryptolinguist, come up with a definitive language or language group that these creatures were using?
No, he says a combination, he thought, of different languages. But over the eons, they probably picked up different things from different, like the Miwoks or something like that. Or who knows, maybe they integrated with the Miwoks a little bit somewhere. He doesn't know. It's an unknown language, and it's a language that in areas go outside the human range, and that's what he listens for when he listens to people sending him in stuff. Because a lot of people just hear a howl or something like that, whoop, and you don't even want to mess with those because it doesn't mean anything. There's a guy that I know who does that just on those. He's in the Olympic Project out in Washington, and he will tell people if it's a wolf or if it's a bear or what it is and how it or not. And he does that by looking at the video, the soundographic, and comparing it to the real one. His name's David Ellis.
Oh, that's intriguing.
Yeah.
That's very intriguing. That's what I do with my analyses when I do haunting in a paranormal group. I run a paranormal group, and that's what I do. I look at the sound wave profile, for, human voice versus whatever, because there's some strange things that come over the microphone, and you can definitely see the differences. The human voice is very well. I mean, there's a lot of layers to it, and they're definitive. Yeah, the range. I did get a recording sent to me by Eric Salaji. Kudos, Eric. Thank you for this. Where during the interview he was doing of a woman who lived way, way out in way out in the sticks. I mean, she was pretty isolated. And she interacted with Sasquatch almost on a daily thing, not necessarily face to face, but she leave him little treats like little Mike and Ike's or something like that. And she whoop back to him all the time. Well, she does that prior to the interview. Hey, you want to hear something kind of cool? She says to him, whoop, and she gets an echo. She gets a response almost immediately. And it was close, according to Eric. So they go inside her house, they do the interview, and they're talking about her experiences. And suddenly, very lowly, and it depends on where you are next to the speakers of your computer, even if you have headphones on, because you hear there's a whoop. It's very, very silent, but it's there, and they react. And I couldn't hear it over the headphones, so I unplug it, and the waveform is way bigger coming out of the speakers, and I hear it. And when I analyze it, that little thing is right at 20 megahertz and extends a little bit below, and it barely registers. It was in the distance. It was heard from inside a house anyway, but it was intriguing to see it that low. So that was in the infrasound range,
pretty close,
which is amazing. Yeah. I'm surprised that Mike caught it so clearly.
Really? What kind of recorder was he using?
He was using a digital recorder. I think he was wearing, or it could have been his Rode recorder, the RODE Rode recording system. I think he has a portable version of that, and he brought that with him.
Oh. Yeah, we can't hear that normally, 20 hertz or below 20 hertz. In fact, our hearing is
right.
limited as a human. Like our vision is also. So, our vision is between 430 and 770 terahertz. That's all light frequency you can see. That's what light frequency is. Or some animals can see better than that, see out of that range. And some people can too. They can see your aura or read part of you. I think these things are able to see what your intent is from your aura, if not from your frequency of what's going on in your head. Sense. I don't know. Yeah, well, it's Animals can. I know my horse could. And any animal that, if you're afraid of an animal before you, like a horse or something, they're going to know it when you get up, try to get up on them. You're going to become one with those things.
Yeah.
They are the oneness that we all are that we don't recognize.
I totally understand. I'm actually a person, I don't discuss this that often, but I'm actually a person who can see auras. More so when I was little, not so much now. But yeah, I can still see them a little bit if I focus enough. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You can definitely tell people's moods based on the energy they're emitting around them.
Exactly. Yes. Sometimes their eyeballs tell it too.
It's a fascinating thing. Say again.
Sometimes their eyeballs will tell you too. Looking at their eyes.
Yeah, for sure. Let me see here. Sorry, I have my notes up, and there we go. When we're talking about Bigfoot, or I'm sorry, Sasquatch, in your research and or experience, and I've heard this said from other experiencers, that they actually have a telepathic communication thing as well as being vocal. Have you found that to be true?
Or I've heard about it, but I don't know. I have a thick head, and I'm always analyzing things. So if I didn't hear it, I think maybe that's why they were doing when they were communicating with me in 1974 on that first reel that you played. Because I think they thought, well, this guy, I believe everything is frequency, like I mentioned before, energy and vibration. So I think if they can find the frequency of where you're at, they can communicate with you telepathically. And maybe they have with me, but I didn't recognize. I was trying to figure out what made me think that, stuff like that. Because I didn't know anything about that stuff.
Gotcha.
Before. I do now.
Yeah. The reason I mentioned that is because I heard a story way early 2000s. It could have been a repeat broadcast, but best of type of deal. But they were talking about Sasquatch, and they have this caller come in and says, yeah, I've seen this, I've heard that, but who you really want to talk to is this other woman. And I wish I had her name. I scoured the internet for this episode and I could not find it. But the story is, and she calls in, this experiencer, and she says, I'm out. I think she was somewhere in the Colorado hills, not the Rockies per se, but in the hills around the Rockies. And I'm hiking through, and I planned to be gone for like a week, so I didn't bring much. And so I crack open an old tree and I find some beetle grubs and I start eating them. So it's real survivor type stuff there. And, knows her stuff. And the broadcaster, I forget if it was Art or if it was the other fella, but he says, "Oh my gosh, really? You do that? Oh yeah, no problem," she says. And that's when I hear someone say, "Hey," off to one side. And I turn my head and there's no one there. And it was very clear, she says. And she says, "Hello?" No, doesn't get a response. And so she's kind of leery, but she keeps trucking on this trail she's on. And she finds this little brook and fills her canteen. And she hears it again. "Hey." And she turns around again, and it's coming from behind her this time. And she turns around and she sees this creature. And my arms are the tree. Go like that. And then with their head back, and classic Sasquatch, roughly 8 foot tall. And she's kind of she's taken aback by it, but she says, "Hello there." You know, she's inquisitive. She's a little welcoming, even in her tone. And this guy steps out. Big Sasquatch guy steps out, and cautious, still hangs by the tree a little bit. And he says something to the effect of, "If you're hungry, come with me." Now, here's the kicker. He doesn't speak words. This is all telepathic, according to her. And she says, okay, she recognizes the opportunity, apparently. And sure, trepidatiously, she follows him. And at one point in this forest, she gets super dizzy. It's like she hit this weird section of the forest that was really making her just super dizzy, and she passes out. She knows she hit the ground. When she wakes up, she's in a cave somewhere, and she can hear water running like falls. And so she makes her way out of the cave, and it's this weird little utopia of Sasquatch. And some are bathing, some are drinking, some are tending to children, smaller Sasquatch. And this guy, she recognized him because he had a weird little mark on his cheek. He had like a gray streak or a scar streak or something like that. Walks up, and she's still in the mouth of the cave. And when he walks into the shadow, his eyes kind of light up a little reddish, according to her. And again, he speaks to her telepathically and says, "You passed out. Are you okay? You know, you won't come into any harm here. Just, don't touch anything. Don't interact with anyone without my say-so." And apparently she stays with these creatures for like 2-3 days. And when it's time for her to go, they say to her, "We have to go now. It's time for us to move on." And then he does this interesting thing where he keeps looking up. You mentioned UFOs before, and he keeps looking up, and she picks up on this cue as he's trying to speak to her, right? Again, telepathically. And she says, "Where are you going?" And he says back, "Well, we're going home." "Where's home?" And he communicates to her more in a visual sense, telepathically, again, gives her the star system, very specifically, where, what the star system looks like, how many planets, and all that fun stuff. And suddenly she gets this wave that hits her again, dizziness, and she collapses. When she wakes up again, she's exactly back where she first encountered this creature. So she has no idea where this lake or pond or wherever these falls are at all. But she goes home, and she sits on the story for months and finally tells her daughter. And then word gets around, and that's when the guy referenced her in the show, like maybe 2 or 3 years later.
I think I know her. I think I know.
Do you really?
Well, I think I do. I just about all of them. And they know me from being around so much. I've been in this circle for over 50 years. I thought that was...
Yeah.
There's not too many that I don't know.
I was going to... That's fantastic. Can you get any of them on the show? And I'm just teasing. You don't have to. But the one thing that struck me about this is the communication of a star system. And he also alluded to, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember this correctly, that there were 2 types. There were those from the stars, and there were those that were native here, or supposedly native here. So,
right.
It's kind of like, if you, for lack of a better term, I don't want to say believe, because it's not necessarily a belief, But if you accept that humans here on Earth at one time in the distant past were either manipulated to be what we are or were brought in from another place in either the solar system or the cosmos, that kind of echoes what these Sasquatch creatures are experiencing as well. Like they have a lineage out in the stars, according to, I believe you said her name was Robin, if that is indeed the same person we're talking about. But it strikes me as just fundamentally, I'm awestruck. Plain and simple, I'm awestruck by that entire thing, and it just blows my mind. I'm just, it's wonderful.
Well, I do believe there's more than one type, and there's been more than one type altered genetically from aliens. And if you get into the Anunnaki and way back into how things began, it really rhymes pretty well with the condensed version in a lot of the biblical texts. And the book of Enoch talks about a lot of this stuff too. And I got that book here. But it gets into, things that we think happened in 2 or 3 days, that God created this, did that, could have been over hundreds of thousands of years. And that's what you got to open your mind up to, that, we've all been conditioned or brainwashed, or whatever you want to call it, by a lot of these texts that have come through the eons of time with the Romans or somebody who wanted power and control. And that's like Constantine. He created the Nicene Creed in 326, I think it was, when he brought the fascists together and accepted only 4 books of the Bible that we have today as being canonized. And that's the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And that's all you're allowed. So I kept all the religion under one thumb, and you could say this is right, this is wrong, and that's what people went by. It's all about control, and but there's some good parts for definitely, for our moralities go. I would encourage anybody to get into the cuneiform text written by the Sumerians in Mesopotamia a long time ago. And that's who kickstarted our culture. It was the Anunnaki. And that's how we got, I know a lot of quote unquote religious people drag me over the coals right now, but I was brought up in religion. I was brought up in a church. I was actually elder in one of the churches, and I know how they think and how they do. And it's all been conditioned to people. Since the ripe old age of 5 years old, they've been told that this is right, this is wrong, until they stretch their mind and start listening to their heart and get into a couple things. The cuneiform text is one, Sumerian written, and then the tablets, and those have been, a lot of them been deciphered, just have been deciphered today. But it's also who you are as a human being. Listen to how important we are as human beings, especially in this day and time. We're all very, very important. We're unique because we were made in the image of something. Let us make man in our image. What does that mean? There's how many Anunnaki there were. Somebody grabbing you?
I mean, if oh no, not at all, not at all. I mean, I'm totally with everything you're saying. I understand exactly where you're coming from. We're talking about a line of discussion that only has very recently been, one, very heavily researched, and two, more accepted. And it's fascinating that we are experiencing such a schism between what we know and what we feel. And it just always, it baffles me, to be honest. I mean, why, I've always been a fan of marrying the two, because I think that's where the real truth of the matter is.
Yes.
We have to,
Well,
we
I
have
am a
to,
Christian.
as a species. As am I.
I'm a Christian.
As am I.
And I will stay that way because I believe the Christ consciousness is what we have to put, is what we have to connect within us. And that will save us from just being a third dimensional being, because we can raise our personal vibration by listening to our heart all the time and letting it expand what's been taught up here. But the Christ consciousness is what the Jews were looking for. No, they were looking for a warrior king. But anyway, I won't get into all that right now, but it's really interesting to look into it all. Very interesting, especially when you're a Bible scholar, or you think you were, and you've read all that stuff, and you realize some of it just didn't make sense. All these gospels that were not canonized, they're out there, like the Book of Enoch, that's important. Sure. It talks about all that. That's just one book. There's also
and yeah, that's just one on the list of many. Yeah. Ron, we're going to take a brief break. I have to do a station ID. Okay, so bear with me while this plays, and we'll be back in 80 seconds.
This is the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 in the Gulf Coast. UPRN talkradio.com. Esoteric programming at its finest.
Our symbol, the trident, gifted to us by the priests of Troy Xenos centuries ago when one of the first monster hunting teams out of Corinth battled a contingent of Vrykolakas that had infested their temple. After the victory over the monsters, the head priest declared, "You are three lances acting as one, not unlike Poseidon's mighty trident of light. That would become our name, the Trident of Light, for the good we did and still do against the dark evils of this world."
Available at Amazon Books. Follow us on Instagram at paranormal.insight. Stay informed on upcoming shows, ask questions, and see what chilling paranormal stories we're following. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube at paranormal_insight. Click the live tab to see our latest videos.
And we are back.
So we use the word esoteric. Esoteric, I like that word.
It's a good word. It's a very good word.
Yeah. Well, there's two parts to human makeup. There's the esoteric part, and there's the biological part. And I like that because energy can't die according to physics. That's science. According to religion, you're going to go somewhere when you do die, so that's religion. So you can put those two together if you want to, because we're all going to change. Energy can't die, so the energy that's in us is going to. We're not a person carrying around a spirit. We're a spirit carrying around a person.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. In my years of doing paranormal research, sorry to cut you off.
I'm going to preach.
Say again? I missed some of that.
Go ahead. Well, my wife just walked in.
Oh, okay.
What do you got there? Hang on a second.
Sure.
I'm on.
Recording now. And welcome back. For you guys, it was half a second. For us, it was a couple of minutes. Just to let you all know. But going back to what you were saying, that the esoteric and the physical do marry in us, as an example anyway. When I've been out doing my paranormal research, one of the fundamental things we but experienced and come to understand is that, yes, we shuffle off this mortal coil, but what's left over is this energy form. And 9 times out of 10, since you've probably seen yourself in the mirror, that's your own self-impression of yourself that's remaining, assuming you haven't moved on. Maybe you have unfinished business, whatever. A lot of paranormal psychology can really come into play as to what a ghost represents, is doing, what have you. But I agree with you. We are a ghost driving a flesh and blood vehicle.
Yeah, no matter how fast you reach up to that mirror and try to wipe something off, you can't beat your finger.
That's true.
All we see is reflections.
Yeah.
Light hits something, you can see reflections. Turn your light off in the middle of the night, and you won't see much.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Absolutely right. Let's go back. Okay, so yeah, that thought went away. Let me look at my notes real quick. When you're up in the sea, okay, I'm sorry. Let's talk about your appearance on that show, Killer Bigfoot in Alaska. Fantastic show. I watched it all the way through. I was very intrigued. Now
that was fun.
You did an amazing thing. You played the Sierra Sounds at the Sasquatch up there. And there were some interesting reactions from what I understand. From what I saw. I don't know what happened off camera.
Well, I don't know either. As far as a reaction to that, I know we did get some reactions, but I warned them not to play that because a lot of people played those and been charged that by Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And if we don't know what really is up there, I do believe they have something up there, though. I really believe that. And if they were around at that time, which there's several factors went into my thoughts on that whole thing. Years ago, when that Camp Portlock got abandoned, is when they were timbering a lot. They were overfishing it, and also they were mining the area. So a lot of stuff that went on back there was probably things that just didn't please these things. And really, I think if everybody showed more respect for our planet, we get along better with what shows up. Because some strange things are going to show up here pretty soon. And we need to be prepared for it. In fact, we're being indoctrinated now with all this UFO stuff. And you're going to see aliens.
I've been hearing about a countdown.
You're going to see aliens. You're going to see a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's when you need to know who you are.
Yes. We keep getting a glitch on the line. It looks like it's okay. So you're at Portlock, you play the sounds, you get reactions. Now, let me ask you something, because there was a lot of stuff that happened at Portlock that seems to me would have had only benefited from your experience. So I don't know if they even did anything, just took you to the camp, had you play the sounds, and you took off, or did you happen to walk around to all their special points of interest on the island or on the bay?
Yeah, I was there.
Because there was an obelisk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that place has been there a long time, and you don't know what the history of the Sasquatch is there, but I gotta believe they've been around that area for a long time. They probably didn't like the way it was being timbered, because I got a special chapter on timbering too, how special trees are, yet we keep cutting them down and use them for firewood or whatever, and I don't think they like that at all. In fact, there are some people that have claimed they saw them go in and come out of trees, and that sounds weird. But if they can change their matter into energy. If they change their matter into energy, they can probably go wherever energy is. That's why you hear a lot about around power lines and around where they're clear cutting too, because we're really screwing up this country, this world. And I think we got to change it. It's got to change. We got to change. And we are going to change. But I don't know if it'll be in our lifetime or not. I'm getting older. So are you.
So. I mean,
yeah, I think we're going to see something this year, maybe next year. Just too many things coming out in the open. Too many whistleblowers out there, and high profile for whistleblowers too. That talk about the dark stuff that's going on that we didn't have anything to do with. Anyway, we just need to be ready for it. Know who you are as a human.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. there was a. So what did you think of the different areas on Port Block? I mean, you had the old cannery, you had the old obelisk, and there was a couple other significant points there. Did any of those resonate with you as being, well, probably the cannery more than anything? That was just kind of
well, the cannery's not there anymore.
And overforesting.
Cannery wasn't there anymore. There was a few old pieces, machinery pieces, strung out.
Yeah.
And one thing that we all noticed was that tree that supposedly caught on fire when we was pulling out. I don't know if you remember that part of the scene or not, but no, it's a huge tree. It's was up there, and it's just it's one they didn't cut down right in the middle of where the village used to be. The cannery.
Oh, the spooky tree. They called it the spooky tree in the show.
And it's got something special about it. But they asked me if I'd go back there again if they could put it together, the production company. But I said certainly I would, because they treated me right. They had a special place for me. I mean, anyway, it's quite intriguing to be there. But got a helicoptered in and helicoptered out.
Well, that's fun. That's always fun. Helicopters are fun. I like them. They're fun.
Yeah. There's a renegade helicopter pilot too. I liked him. I'm a pilot myself. And I took some helicopter lessons, but I've owned several airplanes in my past too. I'm in my 80s now. It's just I've had a life, really good life.
Yeah,
and I'm glad. I've had a lot of experience.
Awesome.
That's all we're here for, Tim, is the experience. That's all this three-dimensional thing is all about, is our experiences. But more important than the experience itself is how we respond to it. That's where the ethereal part comes in, because the more and the better you can respond to negative things and respond to them in a positive way with love and compassion, the better off you're going to be frequency-wise. That's how we get out of here. And that's how we get out of this third dimension. Otherwise, you got to come back and learn your lesson somewhere, somehow.
Yeah. Pick up where you left off, maybe. Who knows? Now, one thing that happened after you left Port Lock was they had the spiritual team come in, paranormal investigators, kind of like what I do, but they were more psychically oriented, and they claimed, at least on the face of it, maybe I misinterpreted them, but they claimed that the Bigfoot they were seeing, the Sasquatch, was in fact more closely resembling a forest entity, and also a dark forest entity, and they actually brought in this device that pumped some special combination of holy water, rosemary, and something else. I can't remember what. And it basically looked like this big machine gun looking thing, and it just spit out this vapor. And they went around with this thing and blessed the whole mountain. And they said decidedly Christian-based prayers, which makes sense. And they cleansed the entire thing. Do you think, one, that was a good idea, and two, do you think they seem to think it was effective? Do you think said effectiveness was because that they were experiencing some sort of dark force that was either emulating a Sasquatch or perhaps was a Sasquatch that was gone dark or bad? Because there only seemed to be one of them.
Well, there's more than one. Whatever you can believe in can happen. So if they were believing that, it would happen. So that's what I'm saying. They believed the negative part when they were being shot in the late 40s. Imagine if these things were around and then they would have shot at it, and that probably pissed it off. And there's got to be more than one anyway. And you're in Alaska, these things were said to be 15 feet tall. And, it's just...
I've heard that.
Well, a lot of theories about all that stuff, but it's interesting stuff. And I know my way around Alaska pretty well. I used to fly up there and go to different places, to villages and things. And that's my first trip to Portlock. Of course, the only way you're going to get in there is fly in or take a boat. It's about a 5-hour trip by boat.
Oh, jeez. That's a little.
They set up. They spent a lot of money on that production company.
Yeah,
they got funded.
It was. That's amazing. Now, let me ask you something regarding. Sorry, I gotta look at my notes here. Vocalizations of these creatures. I keep having to go back to Portlock, but one of the fellas there heard someone in his ear literally talking to him, but we couldn't see anyone there. And I was curious to know, does Sasquatch have that ability to throw the voice, or are we dealing with perhaps a Sasquatch that was out of phase?
Did he actually hear it with his ear, or did he sense it with his brain?
He said he heard it.
Actually heard it, but it wasn't mind speak. Or if they can tune into your frequency, they can transfer whatever they want to it, to your brain, to your senses, I should say. And did anybody else hear it? That would be my question too. And
no, he was alone.
Yeah. Well, then you got to question if it was mind speak, if they found his frequency and just saying that to him, or if you actually heard it. But if you heard it, that's okay too. I mean, we heard it for sure. Again, though, if they can change their matter into energy, you might, or I shouldn't say it, if they can get out of your perception. There's two things they can do. They can either transfer into energy, go into another dimension, or they can get out of your perception, which is only the light frequency that I mentioned a minute ago, the terahertz frequency, light. And if that's the case, they would still leave a track, probably. And that's what a lot of people witness, is the tracks being made, but nothing being seen. And that's, I know David Paulides did a sequence on me up at the Sierra Camp. I took him in there in 2018. Yeah. And they reproduced a light bar that went by our tent that night, and just kind of concerning. You don't know what it's going to do. You don't know what it's all about, but it's just a phenomenon up there that happens. And anyway, so many mysteries we just don't know. I got my theories on a lot of them, but that's all they are, is theories. It's based on quantum science, most of it.
So anyway, okay. So based on what you just said there's something to be said for. You said there was a phase shifting to where they were just out of phase with our space time, and maybe we're interacting with this one fella on the show, and versus doing like a transmedium thing where they're actually entering an alternate dimension 2 hours. Whether next door or not. What do you think, if any, is the motivation between being able to do that? Is it a hunting game? Is it I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think they toy with you. They play games with you, and they think that we think we're smarter than them, and so many researchers do, and then we're not. These things have some abilities, because I think they were recruited prior to Homo sapiens. And I think the troglodytes, cavemen, they're the type, they did evolve. They're really hominid, and they've been messed with also genetically by an alien, I gotta say, something from the cosmos, or something from here. I think these things are down in the ocean, a lot. And it's just so much is going on that we have a tendency to think of everything as a bubble, or, like, here's Bigfoot, they're all the same. That's not true. It can't be true. You think about it. I mean, no, and just so many things that we don't understand yet. I think we live in this third density environment, and we can't do anything about it till we die. And we still can't do anything about it. So come back and correct our wrongs if we had some, and all of us do, or graduate from this and understand our wrongs. We didn't respond to everything with compassion and love, and try to not get angry. Just be calm and just take every day as it comes instead of, because tomorrow don't exist. It's only made up of what your past is going to let you think. And yesterday don't exist because it's only a part of a memory. All we have is the now.
That is deep. I mean, I appreciate it too. That's fantastic. So let me ask you about possible misidentifications, and we're kind of dipping into Native American lore a little bit here. I'm referring to the Wendigo, supposedly brought on by the act of cannibalism. You're transformed into this creature. But is that really what's happening? I tend to think not, that perhaps these were just misidentified Sasquatch way back when that maybe bore from an alternate dimension, as you have suggested. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it could be. I mean, there's hundreds of names for these things all over the world. And what they are is like the dog man, you know, it's all that stuff is... if Bigfoot can exist through genetic modification, anything can exist. Yeah, I mean, Skinwalker Ranch is a good example of that.
For sure. I saw a photo come out of there, or a video, excuse me, and it wasn't too well known. I mean, there was a little bit of hype around it, but there was this, it looked like a cat at first on the mesa, and it was on this little tiny ledge down the mesa face a little bit, and this cat sees the camera, scurries away, and then gets up on two legs as it exits behind this little rock. And it was the most fascinating thing I've ever seen in my life. And if it was CGI, it was very well done, because they matched the color grade, they matched the film rate, they matched all kinds of parameters that would make this a fake. And it was so well done. If it was CGI, I tend to think we may have glimpsed something ultra dimensional, or however as you want to look at it. But
energy. You know,
I want to go ahead.
I was just going to say they could change forms. I say they, whatever they is. My daughter saw Bigfoot.
Well, that kind of leads me. Okay. Oh, at Skinwalker or
by our camp, not by our camp, but about 12 miles away. But as an arrow, she should just be maybe a mile or two, a couple miles off this cliff way down our canyon. And that's when I had to be taken out because I cracked some ribs from a horse fall. And anyway, Scott Nelson was with me, cryptolinguist, and we never could get to camp. But we worked our way around the horses, and he drove my horse trailer and ran up the horses because I couldn't move very well. And anyway, I got over there and camped out with my daughter, who was in this canyon, and she got early that morning because someone was messing with her tent, and my granddaughter was with her, and they saw this Bigfoot, or she saw this Bigfoot go across. It just thrilled her because my granddaughter got out for a walk on this dirt road, which was a couple hundred yards away, and she thought, well, she'll see it because it ran right towards where she was supposed to be. And make a long story short, when she got back to camp, and my daughter asked her if she saw anything. She said, yeah, there's a big white wolf come up right in front of me, looked at me for a second, then ran off up the hill. And I said, oh, Wendy, that's my granddaughter's name. There's no wolves in this area. This is the wolf-free area. No, this was a wolf. It wasn't a coyote. Huge, she said, huge. And anyway, that's the direction to where we think they hang out somewhere. Cliff bank and some rocks or something. If they don't go interdimensional, they probably caves in that area, and they will research walk. A lot of them are just inaccessible, you know, these areas. But anyway, they got to stay somewhere, or they have to just disappear. And we wondered why we didn't see them more often, because and now I think it's because maybe they were cloaked. Maybe they just did. Because what we witnessed up there was unique, and it wasn't like the Patterson film in Bluff Creek. The tracks are different. And we witnessed our tracks over all of the same conformation, the same structure over the years.
Mm.
And I've talked to Bob quite a bit about that. Bob's telling the truth, I mean, as far as that goes. And I don't know. I just think that the Patterson track was a diluted form of a Bigfoot. And that's crossbreeding with indigenous people. And that's what made the track look so much human. And it does. Bob Patterson's Patterson track looks very human-like. Got the arches, got the slanted 5 toes.
Yeah.
Ours don't have slanted toes, just straight across and very little arch.
Oh, really?
So, hard to tell right from left because they walk like this anyway. 1 foot over the other.
Oh, like a tightrope?
They walk like a duck, like we do. Yeah, like a tightrope. That's a good example. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's hard to tell right from the left. Yeah.
Oh, that's very intriguing. Very.
And I've had a lot of people tell me they've seen tracks just like the ones I got in my book.
Oh, very cool. That's very cool. Would you say that? Well, okay. Let me phrase the question this way. There's this alternate dimension, and we have these creatures peeking through into ours. From what I understand, my research combined with your research to a degree, this has been happening forever. I mean, it's been happening for a long time, this weird interaction. So are we then part of a multi-dimensional, I mean, this is kind of what I think. We're part of a multi-dimensional Earth. Like there's one side, there's the other side, there's maybe 4 or 5, 11, like, some have theorized. Is this what we're seeing, this crossover? Because I'm not aware of any humans that have gone to another dimension, although there are stories that, yeah.
Yeah. We chime on that? I will chime in on that.
Sure.
I think we have, as humans.
I thought you were going to say something.
I am. Your mouth is not moving with the picture I'm seeing right now, so I'm not hearing what I'm seeing. Okay. We as human beings, Homo sapiens sapiens, have the ability to reach all the dimensions within ourselves. We have all that ability. We have not evolved into that with our consciousness. Our consciousness from our heart has to be stretched out from the brain. You have to get all this in coherence, all 3 parts. Your receiver is the pineal gland. That's my opinion, obviously. It connects directly to the heart with a vibration. And when you feel that vibration, that sense of doing this or doing that, you need to follow that. But that has to communicate to the brain up here, which generally analyzes everything. It analyzes with what it's been taught. So if it's been taught, but that's where your meditation and clearing out all that stuff, clearing up your pineal gland, because a lot of it's been calcified by our diets. And once you clean up that receiver that's inside our head, you clear up all these messages that are coming through, and that will, you can get in coherence with this, with vibration. It's a chakra, the chakra that you've heard about. These are combination of a lot of religions that teach this exclusively, and some Christians over here will say that's taboo. You can't believe in that. Well, open your minds up, folks, and just see what all is out there. That you could tap into the best of all of it, and it works. The balancing your chakras, which allows your brain to pick up on the heart and do what you feel is right, brain-wise. That also expands yourself. Get into the vortex, get into research and studying. I've been doing this for 50 years, and it's just, I can't get enough of it. I keep delving deeper.
I get you. I'm in a similar boat. I'm the rabbit hole. I never evade the rabbit hole ever.
Well, if you're in paranormal, you are.
It's very hard. Yeah, it's tough to not follow that. Are you familiar with, and you kind of echo a lot of what this guy says. His actual name eludes me, but he goes by the handle 4, the number 4, Bidden Knowledge. And he's done exactly what you've done. He's researched the cuneiform tablets, the old ancient Egyptian stuff, the all these ancient cultures, and he's created this interesting narrative that echoes pretty much what you've said.
I am familiar with him. Yeah, I am aware of him. Paul.
Billy something, right?
Oh, you're talking about Billy. I know who you're talking about. The black guy.
Yeah.
I listen more to Matt LaCroix.
Okay.
And, they've got a book out called Epic of Humanity, which is I got it. I haven't read it all, but it's really good. And but Matt LaCroix is really a good young scholar who studies that stuff, and so is Paul. Paul, I watch him too sometimes. He's got a lot of good stuff, but they all get back on that track. And Billy's really knowledgeable. He's a little short sometimes, but he's knowledgeable. I say short. He's 6'4", I think. But he's been around, and he's been around, and he knows a lot of his stuff. But he also, I think, gets off on. I shouldn't talk about him. He's a good man. I'm not going to talk about anything I see wrong.
He is a good man. I enjoy what he has to offer. I got to research these other folks you talked about too. I feel like I fell behind. I dropped the ball on that, so I'll dig into these other guys too, for sure. That sounds like
Paul.
But he
I
does.
was going to say Paul and Matthew McCoy. They're together quite a bit, and they also ring in with Billy. I want to say Billy Carson. Is that his name?
Billy Carson. That's him.
Matt LaCroix and Matthew McCoy and Paul Anthony Wallace. Yeah. That's
gotcha.
The other one.
Okay.
And they all echo some of Stitch's work, Stitchin is I got his book already years ago too. So
yes, love.
You think like Stitchin. And so I thought I better order his book, see how he thinks.
Yeah.
But I ordered his book, but I didn't read it because I didn't want to be influenced by something like that so much if it didn't feel right. Or I gave it to my daughter, and she still has it, I think. Anyway, there's a lot of people on this same track that we're on right now, and I think it's coming to that because I think there's a whole awakening fixing to happen. I think that's what the 2012 Mayan calendar was all about. The new form of Aquarius. We're falling into a new enlightenment time.
Well, tell us about that.
I just did. We're
okay.
falling into a new enlightenment. Well, what's really going to open it is the UFO when aliens start exposing themselves physically. Well, I think a lot of the aliens are robots. I don't think they have a consciousness in them, but their body is robotic. I mean, they're engineered, in other words. But they've learned how to transfer their consciousness into a android body. And, you got also the reptilians, which are still here. Yeah, like they've been seen over in Vietnam, the cave over there, Sam Dong Yang, I think it's called something like that, by the locals and by the military in Vietnam. Largest cave underground. That's a fun thing to look at. They started taking tours in there on a limited basis in 2013, I think it was. But they saw the reptilian, bipedal reptilian-looking things come out of there. You go back in as soon as the military shot at it. They thought they just missed it, but it just turned around and walked back in. Our soldiers. But you got to wonder, it's like Daniel Boone when he had his experience. He writes about that in his memoirs. Daniel Boone in the Boone Forest up here in East, where he claimed he shot one. And fell to the ground. That's when him and his son were hunting apart. They were together. They don't hunt together. He heard his son's gun go off, and he thought he better get over there. It might be something he needs help with. So he started walking towards that area. Found his son, but this thing had his son in his arms and dropped him down. And Daniel Boone shot him right in the head. And he wondered why his son's shot didn't kill it or something. And he ended up opening it up and found it had a solid breastplate. And that's all in his memoirs. There's a lot of interesting stuff happened here that you don't hear much about. So
I was not aware of Daniel Boone's story at all. Actually, you just opened my eyes to another line of research.
There's a couple of them. I'll tell you a book that's got. Well, I wrote the forward to the book. I got the name. It's over here on my shelf someplace. But it's over there. It's interesting. It's got a lot of interesting tales of things that's happened in the United States that's not been talked about.
That's amazing. That is truly amazing to me. Because I mean,
it's true,
I love stories.
I wasn't there to see any of it. I don't think. I mean, I do believe in multiple embodiments. You know, obviously, and you can't go nowhere. It's going to come somewhere else. Anyway,
that's I mean, like you said, can't be destroyed. That's been factually proven.
It all makes sense too. It makes so much sense. If you haven't learned how to respond to things with love and compassion, you're going to have to learn it somewhere. If you don't learn in this lifetime, sorry, buddy, you're going to have to come back and do it again, or go to another third dimensional environment someplace. What knows how many of those are?
Do you happen to think? Do you happen to think that incarnation or reincarnation is linear, or do you think we go back in time or forward in time?
No, it's not linear. It's not linear. That's made for a third dimensional environment. Once you get out of this, you can choose. You're always going to have a free choice. And you wait till the right family comes along that you want to be into, where you'll have these experiences that you need. And don't be a victim to anything ever again. Don't be a victim. That's easy to do. But just be optimistic about stuff. Be happy. And that raises your personal frequency. And again, if you learn how to meditate to get all this stuff right, you can reach any of these dimensions at will. I think that's how Christ did it, and a lot of the masters that have grown old. That's how they did the miracles too. If you really want to get into it, they found the frequency. So they knew the frequency right off the bat, just like Bigfoot probably knows the frequency to get out of our sight. Possible.
Gotcha.
Possible.
Wow. That's enlightening. That's amazing. That's really cool. There's a lot to be said for having the presence and the ability to actually do that. Because I've had trouble meditating. I mean, I'm doing it wrong. I'm not breathing right. Who knows? I really need to focus on it, and that is a goal for myself this year. But I always fall asleep. hate to admit that, but I'll just nod off, and I feel
there's programs. There's legitimate programs that'll help you into that. It's hard. It's not easy. You got to train yourself to blank out and just receive, because your pineal gland's made to receive, but I've seen how people want to pray and ask for things instead of being still and knowing to receive things. No, I don't think. I think time is linear just for us here. So you can get out of this. You can, anyway.
Are you of the mind that? Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I don't know when you're talking and when you're not.
Yeah, this sentence really funny. Anyway. Are you of the mind that we have a finite number of tries, or do you think we just keep going until we get it right? Because I first
going until you get it right.
Both.
Well, you keep going till you get it right, or time ends for us for this dimension. If the whole Earth ends up vibrating higher into the third dimensional planet that we're on, which is a theory that's out there that the Earth is trying to do that now. I think you either got to change before that time is up, before we destroy what's left of this planet or ourselves. No, you're going to go on. Your energy can't die. It's got to go somewhere. So it's either going to go to another system somewhere, and you'll have a choice. But who knows what you'll be involved in. But you'll have a very open mind. You won't have any more questions. It's all going to be answered. That's just how I see it. But you can't stop. There's not a limited amount. No, you've been here since before your energy has.
Gotcha. Now, I had an interesting experience related to this, and my viewers and listeners will know this story, but I'll relate it to you. When I was first getting into paranormal investigation, I had an opportunity to sit down with a circle of males, believe it or not, all men. They were all men, and they were all psychic to one degree or another. And they kind of met up like once a month to just kind of share experiences, do a little meditation. And I was chiefly there because of my own personal past experiences, I was chiefly there to get rid of my fear and to better understand what a spirit was. And how to not be afraid of it and all that fun stuff. So they said, okay, fine, you're the target tonight. And they put me into a very light trance. Like I was aware of my surroundings, but I could still, in my mind, I could go places very distinctly. I was impressed by that by itself because I've been to different people who, I tried to be hypnotized. They couldn't hypnotize me. Even at the big shows where they had the mass hypnosis guys up there, no luck at all. So both clinical and non-clinical attempts failed. But this group and this one person specifically managed to get me into a trance-like state. And in that state, he says, okay, what's your experience? I described this experience I had with a ghost when I was like 3 or 4. And she scared the living bejesus out of me. And it wasn't a dream because I woke up my mom. And there was one piece of evidence that really kind of stuck. And that was, there was a light that turned on by itself before this ghost walked into the room. And back in the 70s, if you know anything about 70s or earlier construction, the light switches were kind of high, especially for a 3-year-old. Even if I jumped, I couldn't hit that thing. So it wasn't me turning on the light. And so the ghost walks in, scares me. And that was kind of the hang up I had. I didn't want to be scared again. I don't want a full-bodied apparition to walk in all bloody and messed up like you see in horror films. And I didn't want to experience that. So I wanted to get rid of that fear more than anything. So they say, okay, if that's your experience, let's see if there's anything else prior to that. So I'm going to ask you to really focus and go back before you were Tim Sudano, before you were you. What's happening? Just go back a little bit. Where are you? And the first words out of my mouth, and mind you, I'm kind of semi-conscious of this, and I couldn't believe my own words. I mean, not that I couldn't believe them. It's just that they hit with such. It was a knockout punch, really, and it was. Well, I'm not from Earth. Oh, okay. Where are you from? And I said, well, it's kind of hard to describe, but if you head toward the Orion constellation and you go to the arm of the galaxy, the Orion arm, you go into that nebula and you turn toward the center and you keep trucking a little bit and then you turn out toward the center and you turn out at a sharp left, I guess. You're pretty much going to arrive at this little system that we can't see from Earth because it's behind the arm of Orion. And I think, well, according to the visuals I was getting, these individuals, these people, and they were humanoid, at least in my perception, were the influence for the Egyptian culture. They had the same eye makeup, even in this advanced state of being. They held very elaborate sarcophagi for their burial rituals. I mean, there was even an advertisement about it. They had very similar hieroglyphic language and depictions, along with something else that wasn't quite hieroglyphic. A more refined version of it at the very least. And it was, the men had gold eyeshadow, for lack of a better term, and that little curl you see on some of the depictions on the Egyptian walls. And the women were way more made up and coiffed and the whole thing. And it was just an amazing experience. And they were so technologically advanced. If you want to take Star Wars, for example, and you go to Coruscant, that home world with all the ships flying around everywhere, that was kind of what it looked like. Wasn't quite that populous, that heavy, that densely populated, but it was pretty close. And my experience there was radically different. In fact, it was I was at this crux in society. I'm talking the global society, if not the galactic society, of these people. They were shifting from a more scientifically based sociology to a more religious based sociology. And if you spoke out against it, if you expressed that you felt you were moving backwards, you were pretty much arrested on site and hauled off somewhere. Well, that's exactly what happened to my other self. I voiced my opinion against it. It got reported somehow. And I was shipped off to this really, really far off, distant station. And it was kind of, I don't know, if you know anything about Star Trek and DS9, it was kind of shaped like that space station in there, but really extended out. I mean, the tubes on this thing from one circle, a ring next to the outer ring, and was immense, maybe miles, easily the size of a planet, but it was just this spoke wheel kind of structure. And my job, I'll never forget, I said this out loud. My job was to take souls that were coming from my home world and send them back to my home world. Souls, not kidding you. Souls. That was my job as this prisoner. And I always had, I was a technician, a scientist of some sort, and I had worked out a way to sabotage the system. And every day I said, I could just break this whole thing and just break it. I could just break it. But I kept thinking my kids. I had kids in this other life, and I couldn't do that to them. I something about giving them some random soul was somehow horrible to me. So what I did is, in my final days, I managed to program the machine that wouldn't receive my soul, because it'd just suck it out of me. It would send it somewhere else, and it ended up here on Earth, and that's when I wake up from my trance. And I'm bleary. I'm a little out of it, but I'm super relaxed. And you were talking about that earlier. I'm super relaxed and feeling okay despite everything. And I look around, and so help me, there's this being made of energy. If you know what TV snow is, you probably do. It's filled with a TV snow kind of like quality, and it's human shaped, and it's peeking out from behind this bush. And then I see it reach down, and so help me, it throws rocks at me. Little rocks. They weren't that big. They were little rocks. And I kept saying, "Are you seeing that?" And he said, "Yeah. you definitely connected with something. And that was pretty much the end of the meeting. It was like, hey, time to go home. So I go, oh, all right. Wow. So I had this really profound experience, and then it was time to go home.
Yeah. It's not like you might have come from the Anunnaki system, or where the.
Yeah, I mean, I was flabbergasted by that revelation,
And fear is something I like to talk about, because people wonder why we didn't have fear up there, or because we've been dealing with them so long, we realized they weren't going to eat us or carry us away or something like that. So we just became kind of complacent with it, and just want to record them, experience them, and stuff like that. So really, I've been criticized. Well, you were right. Been out of there in a heartbeat. Like Joe Rogan said, no guy can handle those sounds. Well, you got no place to go. Number one, you're up there because it's dark. You can't get out of there in the dark. And plus, we wasn't afraid. And I think fear is your enemy. If you can control your fear, you will get a lot further with understanding things, because fear is only your lack of understanding generally. Because nothing can hurt you as a human being unless you allow it. That's how I see it.
I agree. Well, after that experience, especially, I agree.
Well, after I was interacting with them that night, I wasn't afraid of them, and that's what some people can't understand. How we were afraid. Well, what's there to be afraid of? You know they're not going to. They could have hurt us anytime they wanted to. They could have threw a rock and bopped us out of this world. Just tore our shelter apart and grabbed us and bit our heads off, probably. But that's not what they're about.
Right.
I think they were really doing this, trying to convince me to talk about this stuff today, 50 some odd years later, because it's coming out to light now. It's called the Enlightenment Age, and I think this is part of it. This idea of the podcast, probably why COVID happened, so we can get on these podcasts all the time, and I do these quite often.
I love that. That's fantastic. The cosmos wanted this to happen. So
absolutely, yeah. It's there is a time limit for this.
Yeah,
so I just encourage everybody.
So if we're of that thought went away. I'm so sorry. I had a thought lined up and it went away. I got to write these things down. Oh, man.
I usually have a pen here, too. I do have a pen, but one of those pens that don't write.
But you were talking about fear before and how it is a limiter. And I still have my fears, especially doing the paranormal end of things. And I'm working on it. I mean, I really have. I'm intent on getting rid of the bulk of these fears. One of the chief fears I have is working with those who are possessed, demonically possessed, that type of thing. That is my chief fear, because I know me being present, and I should say that me being present in that space with that fear would be detrimental to the process of expelling this dark entity.
Well, and where's it going to go? The only place it can go is what allows it to go. I mean, it's like these people that have that have to have gotten it somehow. They need a body to work out of the dark elements, and there are detrimental things here. They want humans not to be in charge of this planet. Not that we are now, but we do have dominion over those things. And once you realize that part, you can handle those things. But fear and being startled is two different things. I know I can be startled just by walking into when somebody screams at me in a dark room or something. That might startle me, but I'm not afraid of it. Right. I've had things that I've seen in my room at night, which it was dark, but I could still see them. And they just shoot right by me. They might rub me or play my feet or something, But usually it was my wife running by. Too many times. And finally, I just got to thinking, Thanks, but stop and talk to me sometime. And once I get out of that alpha state, which is the state I think you were in when these guys were talking to you, it's the state of the beta, which we're in beta state right now of awareness. Once you get in the alpha state, it's when you're in that kind of dropping off state. You're not asleep, but your subconscious things are going on. That's the state you got to go into. That's the state. After that comes the theta state. That's your deeper sleep. And you got the delta state, which is after that. And that's a really deep sleep. But these things can interact with you when you're on certain stages of your awareness. I think you were in the alpha state if you were still cognizant of what was going on around you, and yet your mind was relaxed. And that's what you do when you drop off to sleep. And I've seen some things that I don't even want to talk about here because it's just not going to add to the Bigfoot story, I don't think. But I think that's the reason I was brought into all this Bigfoot stuff, and just so I could talk about the ethereal part of our being, who we are. We got the biological, we got the ethereal part. And I compliment you for bringing that in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, I didn't even consider the various states of consciousness when I was experiencing that. And I'm glad you said something about it. So thank you. That's phenomenal.
Well, yeah, it'll all come to light here before too long.
I heard an interesting thing regarding, I think it's the 28th of January. And I don't know how true this is, but and I'm still researching it. But apparently there's going to be a very specific solar discharge. And I have nothing to back this up other than the report itself. There's going to be some sort of solar discharge, and it's going to hyper empower some people to the point to where it may even look like they have or even actually possess some sort of superpowers. I don't know where you stand on that. That was interesting to me.
I think a lot of people that are here now are hybrid. You know, they got alien in them. Some of them don't even know that. But what does happen on the 28th is all the planets are lining up again. They're doing that, so they're lined up with the sun. And there's also happening before that. There's an incident happening pretty soon, I think. I forgot now what day it is, but it happens twice this month. But that gets into the stuff that I'm not studying. You know, I just saw it on television. Or someplace heard about it, or got it on YouTube or something. But it's probably true.
No, I get
it. Yeah, I don't know what's happening, but
it'd be interesting.
I think we just all need.
It'd be interesting.
We all need to be ready. We need to be ready.
Yeah, I agree. That is. I think that's the key thing. So, if there are any final words you'd like to impart, we're at the end of our time. But let's get your books posted, and you know, put them up there at least. So there's one of them.
That's my second book. Yeah.
It's his second book. You saw his first book, but I didn't get the first one. And then there's this book.
Yeah. David Pilates was nice enough to write he wrote the forward to that for me. David Pilates, the guy that wrote the forward to One Missing series.
Oh, sure.
Him and his photographers are the ones I took up there in 2018 when California was on fire the other time.
Oh, wow.
And but they did a very good reproduction on what me and my wife experienced up there in 2016, which was this bolt of light going by. So I say bolt of light, it was just elongated light moving slowly through the trees. And you don't see that it's on his missing form one of the hunted. Yeah. I think he gave me about 15 minutes in that when he interviewed me at the camp. And, interesting. Yeah, he's a good man.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to have to close out the show right there. Ron, thank you so much for being on the show. I can't thank you enough.
My pleasure. A good conversation. RonMorehead.com. Yeah.
RonMorehead.com. Don't forget it. Goodbye, everyone.
If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight